What is going on, folks? So welcome. Today I have a special treat for you. I got my buddy, business partner, trainer extraordinaire. I don't know, man. What else you do? You chef, you play golf,
Yeah, there's not much I don't do. It's surprising. Decorate houses, man. Hey, I got it all.
I will confirm that, man. You are a true Renaissance man in the true essence of the word. So, but I think for the context of today, those of you guys that don't know, we own a women's concept gym that we started a few years ago. And it was Anthony and I's brainchild to start it together, and we partnered up on it, and it's gone really well. So I think today, man, let's talk about just sort of your background, how we got to where we are, maybe some things that you've learned, right?
Okay, cool.
And help our listeners that are maybe thinking about opening their own gym or maybe changing their PT model, wherever that may be. So first, man, and I actually don't know as much about you as I probably should. You know how we are, right? It's
going to be interesting.
Here we talk, what was there, 6 months?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't even see you. I don't even know who you are sometimes.
Exactly, right? I'm on the road, you hold it down. It's like, hey, it's a good relationship. So just tell me a little bit about your background overall. How did you get into personal training? Where'd you come from? What's up?
So in general, I'm from a business background. So as far as going to college, it was just business, marketing, management, undergrad marketing, grad was strategic management. So, graduate with a master's degree and figured the world is mine. Yeah, not so much when I graduated. So I was like, okay, you got to figure out what you're going to do. So it ended up being moving to New York, ended up getting to the modeling acting field because, of course, everyone wants to be a model and actor in their life some point, or they want to be an athlete.
Hold on now. I also wanted to be one, but I never made it happen.
Well, hey, you weren't out there as much as I was. You should have took that chance.
Apparently not. Right. I think it had some genetic issues, but yeah, I hear you.
Fair enough.
Right. So you're modeling and stuff. You're hanging out in New York City, right?
New York City.
Okay.
So bartender, restaurant manager, jobs that you have to get at work at night because you're trying to be an artist, starving artist, but an artist nonetheless.
Yeah.
So once I got into the restaurant industry, I found people that were in the fitness industry, and they told me how lucrative it could be, how you could create your own lifestyle by being in the fitness industry. So who wants to, stay up late nights running a restaurant all the rest of your life? Not me. So it turned out that I got into fitness, became certified, and said, you know what, I'm going to try out this fitness thing. Left the restaurant alone.
Now, was there any similarities? Because that's interesting that you go from restaurants to, they're both service-based businesses, right?
Yes, definitely.
Is there any similarities that you saw, when you became a trainer?
100%. People. You deal with people. You become pretty much a therapist.
Okay.
Whether you're slinging drinks or swinging kettlebells, you're straight up a therapist every single time. It was great to transition. I didn't have to worry about getting anybody drunk anymore. But at the same time, I have to worry about figuring out what they're bringing to the table every time they walk in the door.
Right.
So in 2005, I left New York after having gotten certified, working in fitness. And then I said, I'm going to move to Atlanta, not have a job, but I'm going to build a house anyway, because that makes total sense. So I tried to build a house without a job.
You were an entrepreneur from the get-go.
Yes,
man.
Indeed. Man.
Ready, fire, aim, right?
Yes, I will make it work. So it's like, I got to get a job, and I had to figure that out. Once I got to Atlanta, how am I going to make this work? And walked into here, Alloy, which at that point was North Point Personal Training. You guys may or may not know that. But
that's right. That was post Good Bodies, by the way.
Yes, indeed.
Like 5 brands later,
right? So, it's almost like the rest was history. It's like literally started working November 5th, 2005, and have yet to leave the brand and don't plan on it.
Oh, that's awesome. So, all right. I can still remember the day you came in, and it was like, did you have an MBA, right?
Yes, sir.
So he has an MBA from Temple?
Yep.
So he has an MBA from Temple. You were really well-spoken. You were a model. It was just, I'm looking at you like, okay, this guy's like a unicorn, right? Like you got all the intangibles. And I got to say, man, still to this day, like that, from that first impression, it's been the same all the way through. Like I've never met, and I'll tell anybody listening, like I've never really met anybody like you. And you know how many people I meet, right?
Meet a lot of people.
Like I've never seen you have a bad day. I've never seen you be in a cross way with a customer or a client. Like it's just, it's a real testament to you as a person, and
appreciate that, and
your mom and whatever else your background was. Cause I've never met anybody else like it. So I'm sure you have bad days, but nobody knows.
No, sir. At that point I take a nap and it's like, as soon as I wake up, it's a wrap.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, and then for anybody that doesn't know as well, just a little personal thing about you, side note, is you food prep every weekend, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right. So before we get into training, and then you post it, it looks like something out of a restaurant. So did you get that from your restaurant background?
No, I just like to cook. And it's just like anything else. I figured if I'm going to learn how to do it, I'm going all in.
I like to eat.
Yeah,
I like to cook. Right?
You know what?
You like to cook and eat?
I like to cook and eat. I don't like to bake.
You don't like baking?
No, I do. I love to bake. I got my own KitchenAid mixer.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like to bake from scratch.
God, man. Like I said, dude, Renaissance man. Like, I like to eat. I was listening to a comedy special. You know who Jim Gaffigan is? He's just
Oh, yeah.
And he was saying that. He's like, he's heavy set. So he's like, people always tell him, like, I bet you like to cook. He's like, well, I like to eat.
Exactly.
And they'll be like, I bet you know your way around the kitchen. He's like, well, I like to sleep. That doesn't mean I want to make a bed.
Exactly.
Right. Same kind of thing. So that's awesome. But yeah, just from, I've always admired you for that. You post these beautiful pictures and you've got your meal prep laid out for the week, plus all the other things you have going on, your parent, your great marriage, all the other stuff. So yeah, dude, it's nuts. So anyway, I still remember that first day that you came in. I was impressed, still impressed to this day. Best partner ever. And I can remember then, it was about 10 years after you were here? You were here like 10 years straight?
Yeah. So finally we ended up leaving and opening the women's concept in 2016. So about 10 and a half years.
Yeah. And I can remember that conversation. So, I think you just, as you normally do, totally professional, there was no like thoughts behind the background or whispers in the break room. You just like came straight to me and said, look, man, I need something different. I think we met for a coffee or something at Starbucks.
Starbucks, yes.
And I was like, you know what? There's this interesting concept. You would be perfect for it. What are your thoughts? I laid it out there and you thought about it. And I think you got back to me in like a week, which means you really went and thought about it. You weren't just like, yeah, whatever, and you were like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, initially, kind of honestly, when you initially approached me with the idea of opening a gym where I would only be training women 24/7, I was not interested. Dude, and keep in mind, I've got 4 sisters.
I was about to say, dude, there's not anybody that's more qualified to do that than you.
I get it. But maybe it's the traumatic of growing up with 4 sisters that said, no way, no how.
Are they older or younger?
Both. 2 older, 2 younger. I'm right in the middle.
Right in the middle. So you got picked on and picked on.
Exactly.
Right? You got to pick on and you got picked on.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I started thinking, I'm like you just said, I'm qualified for this. I tell people all the time that ask me, I was born for this job, to do this, train women, because no, I don't know everything women think. So if I do, I'm changing career paths. But I've learned enough to know that I'm pretty good at working with women and helping them get where they want to go.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I knew it intuitively, just having seen a bunch of coaches come through here. And another reason, you guys, that we chose women's only as a concept is when we looked at our history, 70% of our original engagement in a personal training brand came from women. So if we were, for those of you guys that don't know the model, we laid it out. It's 1,500 square feet.
Yep.
It's one coach on the floor with, at the time, 6 clients is the model, right? And if you're only with a theoretical limit of 100, I know we've pushed that up to 115 or so. But if that's the case, why would you do guys and girls when 70% of your original engagement's from women? So that was the idea, and it's actually worked out really well. But let's back up a minute. Tell me a little bit about like when you transitioned from like personal trainer, which you were amazing, and you had sort of an identity around that, right? Like best coach, everybody wanted to be on your schedule. You were always booked. I talked about this in KPIs last week. One thing that we measured is efficiency of sessions, right? And you were the most efficient trainer, just meaning that you were fully booked almost every hour that you were here, right? And so then moving into like starting your own facility. So take me through like your thought process, like finding retail space, like negotiating leases. I mean, all that stuff. And I know we did some of that along with you,
right?
But you did a good deal of it. So kind of where was your mind at during that time period? Because that's a big transition.
I mean, just having my business background, I know you have to do your research. You just can't throw a business anywhere and expect it to be successful. As much as in your heart, you may want it to be, but you have to put some thought behind it, do some research. In doing our research, the area we placed it in, Suwanee, Georgia, second fastest growing area in Georgia. The level of the client that we wanted is exactly where we wanted to put it as far as the affluent location. Again, it's a very diverse community. All these things added up, as well as the final key was putting it in a area that was actually, again, growing, and it was a position to where we didn't want to just throw it in any strip center. So we put it into a strip center that was relatively new. It basically can hold our upscale image that we wanted to for this brand.
Yeah, what else is in there, again, just to give people an idea, like what do you mean by like a upscale? Like what are the other businesses in there?
There is there's a primary care facility that takes up a large space of it. There's a eyeglass and ophthalmology facility there as well, a big restaurant on the corner. It's something that holds down that area very well. And again, it attracts the affluent customer that we're looking for.
Right,
So it was a match made in heaven with that. negotiating the lease, it was a situation where, again, you put all the cards on the table, have them understand exactly what we're looking for, exactly what we plan on doing, and then obviously negotiating based on all that information.
Right.
So,
I mean, you found the space, so.
Yeah. It was one of those where, I mean, I couldn't have found a better place if I had instituted using a realtor of some sort. It was awesome.
And we didn't use a realtor on that? Did you just find it?
We did have some help on pointing out some different locations.
Okay.
But ultimately it's like, okay, we're going to go with this particular one. And we had a realtor work with us as far as securing the initial contract, the initial lease, and going from there.
Okay. Yep. Cool. So what was going through your mind at that time? Nerves, excitement? Like, how were you, like, speak to the guys that are out there now that are maybe working in a gym or working in a training center or something of their own, and they're thinking about getting their own place. Like, what kind of stuff was going through your head?
Definitely nervous, but more of a nervous excitement. But for me, it was almost like, and this is pretty much where I do everything, even when like moving down from New York, jump out of the airplane, you have a parachute, but you're not going to pull it until you really need it. It's one of those, I'm going to get this done. I mean, the reason I know I'm going to get this done is because I have faith in everything that I can get done, everything I can do. And you already know this. I even tattooed Alloy on my shoulder because I believe in the brand. I believe in everything we can put out there, and I wasn't going to fail. Yeah. That just wasn't in my thinking. At the same time, again, you have to do research. You have to make smart decisions. You just can't throw it out there and say, oh, it's going to be successful merely because I wanted to. You've got to do your work.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah, no, man, good points. And that's a lot to learn. And did you find that there was any difficulty? Like, I mean, you're still an owner operator at this point, so you still do some training and all, but obviously your focus is on growing the business overall. Was there any, I don't know how to put this, maybe identity crisis around going from just coach to like owner?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, as you said, so going from being at the mothership in the Roswell location as being the big fish, if you will, and then going to being the small fish, where essentially no one knows me where I'm going to.
Right.
So it's one of those where you're the big man on campus, and now you head into this new college, if you will, and you're the small man on campus now.
Right.
So it's like you're in
ninth grade now.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to get to know the community.
High school,
and that's one of the biggest things I did. I've got to know some of the people that were big in the community and basically leverage that to help me get established in the community. Went to a few events, again, started getting
like
my
Chamber
face.
of Commerce, like what kind of events did you go to?
So there was this event is North Gwinnett High School is a huge high school in the area.
Okay.
So they have this big charity organization, and it's a big charity event called the Big To Do. I went to that the first year, and it's literally to get out there. I mean, yes, you had to buy a ticket and get involved and donate something to the actual event, but it puts me out there. I went to one of the bigger salons out there, got to know the owner, and she still trains with me to this day.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But establishing some roots in the neighborhood, I know a lot of important people that work for the entire city of Suwanee, and they train with me as well.
So they work for like city council or like
city council. They put on all the events for the city. Wow. So it's like you get to know the people that are the movers and shakers in the town.
Yep.
You'll eventually know everybody else that they know.
Yeah, that's tough to do in Atlanta. So props to you. I mean, Suwanee's unique in that it's sort of this bedroom community in a bigger city,
right.
And they have that really neat town hall and things like that. But that's good advice for anybody listening. I mean, you can run all the Facebook ads you want, but when you're in a small business, even if you're part of a bigger brand, you're still the neighborhood gym, right?
Correct.
And one way to make it feel that way is to get out and make those local contacts.
Right. It's the people. You've got to connect with the people. Again, they have no idea who you are, so you've got to build that trust that you're a reputable business. You're someone they want to do business with and can trust. And once you do and keep that going, I mean, the world is yours essentially.
Yeah. That's really cool. And we started, if I recall, with zero, right? We didn't do a big pre-sale play. We kind of like came up with the idea, found the space, and just were off and running.
That's It's funny you say that, because if there were anything I would go back and change would be finding a way to do a bigger, I'll say pre-launch,
right, to
build that brand awareness just a little bit more before opening the doors.
Right. Well, we've got that now. So.
Well, no doubt, but it took a little bit.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like we have a whole pre-sale playbook built, for the franchise, as we're going there. So we've got this whole pre-sale playbook built because, opening with 75 clients would have put you, 3/4 of the way there.
Exactly.
In the black from the day one, right? Yep. So that would have been good. Cool. All right. So a little bit of nervousness, but jump, then figure it out, right?
Exactly. I was ready.
But calculated.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So don't be crazy, right?
Exactly.
Yep. budget as far as like setting aside a certain amount of money or anything like that? Did you put a lot of thought into that, or was it just sort of like figuring it out as we went? I mean, obviously we were partners, so we both had our, financial input.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's one of those things where you have to figure out how much cash flow do you want to always have on hand. So, of course, cash is king. You want to be able to have the liquidity when necessary, if necessary. Of course, you don't want it to ever be necessary.
Right.
But, I mean, you have to make decisions on, okay, do you want to purchase equipment? Do you want to lease equipment? You want to, of course, negotiate the best rate for your lease because, of course, every single month it's going to come up whether you're making money or not. Right. People want their money. There's nothing you can do about that.
People always want to get paid. I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
It's weird. They don't understand.
It may seem like a small potatoes, but things like gas and electricity and like to this day, I still clean the toilets every single Friday.
Really?
Not joking.
All this time. Huh?
Every single Friday at noon, shut the gym down, mop the floors, clean the toilets. And it may sound like it's not a big deal, but you can save a few $100s every single month by not, farming that out to another outside vendor.
Right.
And it's a small space, so it's not that big a deal.
There's not many people that would do that, by the way. Present company included.
Well, hey, man,
well, I'm not you, dude. I can't
goals,
do 9,000 things a day. Like, I can, but it is different, So in that process of like, learning leasing and financing and in these decisions, right? And a lot of that stuff, maybe we knew some of those things, right, along the way as an organization. But you had to learn it personally, right? Is there anything else that you've learned going from trainer, employed trainer to self-employed, just anything that comes to mind that maybe surprises you or something you already knew that was confirmed, anything like that?
It's one of those things you don't know until you're in it, as in you go from clock in as a trainer, do all of your work, and then you can clock out and the gym is just pretty much set aside until the very next day. Well, there's no clocking out when it is your baby. It doesn't happen that way. So whether it's, there's a leak at the gym and you got to figure out how to fix it, you've got to call a plumber, or you're in charge of marketing. You have to make sure it's going properly. Every decision is yours, but on the flip side, every decision is yours.
Right.
And that's the part I love.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm only a little bit of a control freak, but it works for me.
No, you are a big control freak, but it's good,
yes,
man.
Sir.
I mean, you have to be, it's like, but I think that's important to hear is sort of like, when you're really good at your craft, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make a great owner.
Correct.
It's a different skill set, right?
Yep.
I mean, you came into it with a very unique skill set, service business history, worked as a trainer already, and had an MBA. Like there's not a lot of people listening that are going to have that complete, background. So all this built up, data and skill set. So moving from trainer to owner, what type of skills do you think that somebody's going to need?
The biggest one, and this is something I'm literally trying to teach my 10-year-old son, is the ability to ask for help. That's just one of those things where it's like you have to know you only have X number of resources that you can personally use every single day. And some things you will have to say, you know what, this is not for me because I need to get these other 3 things that are much more important done. You have to know when to get someone else to get that small piece off your table. One of the things that helps me with marketing is this is just things like, whether it's T-shirts or a member giving them like a little shaker bottle. I have one of the ladies who has a company who does that, so I leverage that. Right. So she's one of those people who comes to the gym, she trains, in exchange, we do things that help we with marketing. But it's, again, leveraging the people leveraging your relationships, and knowing when to say, you know what, my plate's full. Let's give someone else a chance to help me out.
Yeah, that's tough. And I mean, there's still some work there to be done even for you, right? Mm-hmm. As you continue to scale more locations or whatever that is. Right. Delegating and understanding that it's probably not going to be like with a controlling person like you. I'm the same way. I want it done perfectly every time. And I've heard different theories, but I've heard people say like if it's up to 30% as good as what you can do, then that would be the time to farm it out, because of course it's never going to be as good as if you do it. Right. But it's impossible. You can't do everything in all places, right? And you got to be able to sort of look at things from crop duster height. And I've been through the same thing. So when I first opened here, I was just a trainer guy, and then I had to learn business. And it was like, then we had another business. And it was like, oh my gosh, you just have to keep leveling up. Exactly. Skill wise. So we're off and running. So place is going great. I mean, obviously I know this because we're partnered up. So we're pretty much full up on members. Let's discuss the model a little bit. So, we say personal training, obviously the podcast is about that, but tell me about like the coach to client ratio and how that all works.
So the coach-client ratio, the six clients come in. They all don't walk in at the same time. It's one of those that we preach to the clients that are new. This is at your pace. This is at your level. So they understand the second they cross that threshold, we're taking care of them. And this
so they
is
can just put their keys down, you do the rest.
Exactly.
And that's really the beauty of like what you would see historically in personal training. Is that right?
Right. And be able to give that to them and have them understand, okay, they're taking care of me. First and foremost, they're going to make sure I'm safe. Second, they're going to make sure that I'm doing everything I need to do to get me toward my goals and then providing those same resources. Now, of course, the compliance is something that we all struggle with getting our clients to do. But if we do it as often as we can, we can only hope they can take that information and then use it to get to where they want to go.
Right.
Some of the fun things that happen with this particular model is the second they walk in the door, it's only 1,500 square feet. I'm saying, hey, Karen, how you doing? I could be in the back of the room, but they know that I just said hello.
Yeah,
the second they walk in.
So there's an advantage for personal training to be more intimate. Would you agree? Yeah,
without a doubt.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Yep.
You speak to them the second they walk in the door with that energy. There's no, well, I just warmed up at home. No, you didn't. I just saw you walk in the door. It's right there.
So I have my seat heaters on. I'm fine. I'm ready.
So it's like warm up. Like, let's make this happen. Don't skip the warm up. And you can have all kinds of conversations with not only the one person, but the entire group at the same time.
Right.
And that also helps with accountability. It builds camaraderie. It just makes it a much smaller community where almost everyone's accountable for everyone else.
Yeah.
I've had some people go out for, whether it's a shoulder surgery or they're going out for something else. Hey, where's such and such? Where's she been? Everyone wants to know where everyone else is because they just flat out care about them.
Right. Well, now that's a great point, like community, because one of the things we were concerned about, and of course I'm not female, obviously. I'm not in this lifetime anyway, but that when you put a bunch of women together in a small space, the fear is that, some of the feedback we got from other gym owners is it might be catty or, cliquish or something like that. And I would say the same thing goes for dudes. So let's just not say it's female only, but like, how have you navigated that? It doesn't seem from outside looking in, just being in the social media pages or whatnot, that it doesn't seem like it's that way at all. It seems like it is a supportive community. Mm-hmm. Like, what part have you had in driving that type of culture so that it's not become, cliquish and the cool kids versus the other kids, that type of thing?
It's one of those from the very first time you speak to someone, especially when you're on the phone and they're not really sure what it is you do or how you do it, you let them know. There are people that are 70 years old. There are people that are 25 years old. They lift a lot of weight. They lift a little bit of weight. It's one of those to basically ensure that everyone understands that you can lift right next to someone else, but it's going to be at your level. Now, at the same time, when they're training, everyone gets the same amount of fun. They get the same amount of energy. You don't give someone a lot more energy because you may have known them longer or you like to train them more. Everyone gets the same amount of love.
That's such a good point,
same amount of ribbing.
That's such a good point.
It's like if you're talking about someone and you're making fun of their football team because they stink, well, you might make fun of someone else's because they stink too, and then maybe make fun of yours as well. It's like everyone is fair game to have fun and enjoy it.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah. It just goes back to like your background. Like, hey, you just have to be empathetic person and understand, and empathetic, obviously. For those of you guys that don't know this, we took a test here and there was an empathy test, and Anthony and I were the two on the team that got 1 out of 10. So I don't know. We joke about not being empathetic, but I don't think empathetic is necessarily being a bleeding heart. I think it's just being aware of other people and sort of like body language, and that person's having an off day. Maybe they need a pat on the back. Like that person's being a pain. They need me to knock them down a little bit. It's just like coaching, right? It's like coaching athletes or anything else.
And you have to do it in a way that doesn't make someone feel bad about it. They have to understand like, okay, I understand what you came in with. We're going to set that aside now. We're going to have some fun. And we're going to work hard. And then we're going to deal with that and how you're going to deal with that for the rest of the day. But right now, we're going to enjoy what we have right here.
Yeah. And I remember the initial conversations we had about how we're going to set this culture up, because what we didn't want to do was have a culture that just attracted like super needy, low fitness level only, like you have to come here and we're going to do all the support for you, which, as you know, it's like you got to teach someone to fish, right? They have to own their nutrition and everything else. So is there any like pointers that you can give anyone listening about how, what have you done to build that culture where it's not always about like how you look in a bikini, but it's more about empowerment, strength. I mean, I've seen women from the gym doing pull-ups and heavy trap bar deadlift and some really impressive strength moves, right? And what's the average start age there now?
So it's 51 is our average age.
Yeah, so crazy. I mean, and as the listeners know, and I mean, shoot, we're putting all of our eggs in that basket with the franchise. It's like people have the money that will appreciate a technical coach that can not make them feel bad about themselves and not hurt them. Is that age bracket 50 and older, right? So it's interesting that you're seeing the same thing, but speak to that a little bit. Like, how have you built that culture where it's about what you can do outside the gym, your strength, and you're feeling good about yourself more than just what the aesthetics show on the outside? You know,
right.
what do you do to cultivate that?
There's three big things I talk to the ladies about, and one of them is my own personal 80-20 rule, because they're not sure, like, well, how do you know what to give me and how do you know what to do? I tell them 80% is what I think you can do, and the other 20 you need to come along with me and believe in you enough to get it done.
Oh, good.
So, and the other one is I tell them you can't slay every dragon. You can't want to be super skinny today. You can't want to be super strong. You can't want to count all these. You have to find some things you want to be really good at and do them as consistently as possible. So it's one of those things, okay, you want to weigh a certain amount? Awesome. Let's work on that. Let's work on how to get you there. But the next day you can't say, well, I want to do X, Y, and Z as well. I'm like, let's focus on a few, knock them down, keep your goals in order. And then as you get to your goals, we'll move them around as needed. And then the last one is one of those where live to train another day. It's like, you don't need to get injured. You're at the gym 2 to 3 times a week, which is 3 hours out of an entire week. You have the rest of the day, the rest of the week to go out and do all the things you want to do outside the gym. Be awesome as you can in the gym, and then don't get hurt, and then live to train the next day.
Yeah, I love it. So what does that speak to? I know you know how we feel about this, and you know, the women's brand was our first foray into this, which is like, you know, what are your just high level thoughts on everyone, especially the female population, going to these hit franchises and just crushing their heart rate, getting their cortisol up? I mean, and they think like, you know, I'm going to, you know, maybe I throw a heart rate on, I'm going to burn a lot of calories, and that's where it's at. I mean, obviously we're not huge proponents, but just your personal thoughts on that. What have you seen?
From what it's almost like we almost have to retrain people, especially when they first come in and try to figure out what we do versus any of the other brands that have that kind of setup. It's how them understand that rest is okay. You don't need to go into a gym and quote unquote crush every single workout. Rest is super important so you can be at your best every time. You'll get some of that high energy workout, but it's also in the midst of doing some workouts that are not going to get your heart rate up super high, enough to challenge you, but it's going to give you a chance to recover so your body doesn't tell you one day, yeah, we're not doing any of this anymore. Because that's what will happen after you do hit workout after hit workout, and without having any rest, your body's going to shut you down.
Yeah, and we've seen that, right? There's people that are with you at the women's gym now that like cross over between this gym and your gym, even though they're far away. They might live in between, and you know, maybe they decide to, you know, they're going to add to their strength training, like high level spinning, and then they're doing like 2 workouts a day, and then they start doing like hit training on top of the spinning, which is basically hit training anyway.
Exactly.
And then we use the InBody as a body fat analysis, and then, you know, you would think jacking up your activity that high, you know, above and beyond, they feel terrible. They're a little bit beat up because their nutrition didn't bump up their calories to meet the new demand. And then lo and behold, right, they jump back on the InBody and they're actually the same weight,
right?
You know, maybe a little bit less, maybe even a little more. And then they actually have more body fat than they had before, which is like that sort of, you know, physiological proof that like, listen, more is not better when it comes to crushing yourself with hit workouts all the time.
And that's also common. I want to do more things, do all the things. And at some point, again, not only will your body shut you down, but you will not be able to recover enough to do the next thing that you actually wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah. And what type of activities are your clients? What do they like to do outside the gym?
Outside, I mean, we're in Atlanta, so tennis is a huge one.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them will actually go cycle. I tell the lady, work hard in the gym, and the next day, go for a walk.
Oh, I love it.
Just go for a walk.
Just move around.
That's it. Yeah. Just keep moving.
Yep.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, just move. You don't have to do another workout. It's not 100% necessary. Just work out 2 to 3 times a week. Keep your body moving the other days, and I'll see you the following week.
Yeah, I love it, man. I wish everyone could hear just this section, you know, because it's like I feel like we get on this soapbox with all the current trends, these little trends that, you know, macro trends that pop up, these 5 to 7 year cycles, right? Right now, it's all about heart rate and hit. Yes, and I think you're starting to see the pendulum swing back a little bit. And if anything, you start to see more attention paid to some of the scientific knowledge and studies done on what that does to cortisol levels and inflammation in your body and how that can actually prevent you from probably the number one goal, which you came in for, which is fat loss, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of counterintuitive. Like, yeah, you need to move more, but all of it doesn't have to be at that really high heart rate all the time.
Right.
I mean, it's like, you know, a buddy of mine in the industry said, like, it's like getting in your car and cranking it up and just redlining it right out of the parking lot every single time. You just can't do that for long. You know, it's just not going to last. So just something I wish everybody could keep in mind, especially the female population that's really drawn to that hot and sweaty type of franchise that might be scared of lifting and maybe just wants to do a bunch of cardio stuff. It's like, that's not the way to do it. And we know that now scientifically and all the empirical evidence of the people that we have. Cool. All right. So trainer to business owner, you're still obviously into some of the training stuff and you've got to take care of your population. But if you could go back to, you know, when we were having that conversation at Starbucks to now, what, if anything, would you change between now and I mean, you mentioned maybe a pre-sale, but outside of that, a strong pre-sale, what would you change between now and then?
There isn't much. I mean, the way things have gone, the way we've grown, I mean, we've grown faster than most businesses would grow. And I mean, things have gone really well. Inevitably, there will be a slowdown because at some point you can't train all the people. I like the way the gym has come together. I like the fact that, I mean, people will come together and create the community. And getting back to that, it's one of those things where you ask, how do you avoid the cattiness? If someone comes in and that's their mentality, they stick out like a sore thumb. And it's almost like they leave before you have to tell them to because they don't feel comfortable in that situation. Yeah,
it's like a book I read and the title was Culture Trumps Personality, right? It's like once that culture's in there, it'll be like just super evident, right? That they don't fit in. Not unlike a small organization or anything else.
Right. And it's one of those where, I mean, we've preached this for years here, introduce everybody. I mean, I introduce people so often that people say, yeah, I met her 3 weeks ago. I'm like, well, I didn't know. Sorry, I don't, because the one day I don't.
You didn't meet her enough.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So the one time I don't do it, it's like, oh, you didn't introduce me to her. I'm like, well, there you go. That's why I do it. So as long as people get to know each other, I mean, there's so many just relationships that have been formed. Literally, I have almost an entire group of women that are there like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8. They're leaving to go to the beach together. And they all didn't know each other.
That's so cool.
Which is awesome.
I mean, and you know, there's been some talks posted that I've done about this. It's like in so many ways in this society where we're so connected, you know, we're also so disconnected from humans, right? It's like, you're connected on Facebook, but what does that even mean? Or Instagram? But it's like, you know, to have real human connections, right? That lead to family vacations to the beach is what it's about. And so in a lot of ways, you know, we're the third place, right? People have work, they have home,
there you go,
and they have us. And so we're filling that same gap that maybe a book club would fill, right? Or a wine club or like a Starbucks morning with the girlfriends, right? Like we're that, but we're just a much better version of that because we're also, by the way, helping you achieve your health and fitness goals. It's almost secondary in some ways to community, right?
That's true, yeah.
But it's cool that we can use that vehicle to be that community for people. Right. So props to you for doing that. That's probably at the end of the day what it's all about. And certainly from a business standpoint, that's like retention 101, right?
Right, there you go.
What's the retention like in this model, by the way? I mean, that was something where, you know, if we get to 100, are we done? I mean, what kind of churn rate do you see? Is it cyclical? Just tell me about that overall landscape.
When you first start, it's one of those things where, again, we've grown really well, and retention was one of those things that it was necessary, of course, to retain people, but it wasn't 100% necessary to put a lot of effort into it because it was new. People were getting to know the brand. People were getting into the brand and again, into the community, and they stayed because that's what they did. And now as you see other competitors come along, they're trying to figure out, okay, do I stay here? Like you said, is HIT where to go? They may have heard, do I need to do HIT? And this isn't HIT. Is that going to be better for me? There's two people, I'm not going to mention them by name because they get really embarrassed, but these two ladies came to me before we even opened the gym. They never worked out in their lives. They are in their 60s. They've worked out, and they did work out 580 straight days before they stopped training together. So they work out 3 days a week. And I mean, it's amazing how consistent they are. Injuries, it doesn't really make a difference. They're showing up, and it's awesome. So it's one of those things where even when you do have some retention issues from here and there, you look back at people like that and say, you know what? They're the reason this gym is open. That's the reason why it'll stay open.
Right. And for those of you guys listening, I mean, our goal is 3%, right? Month over month. So And all that means is we don't want to churn out more than 3% a month. And that's still 36% a year, which
Correct.
sounds high, but when you look at the industry average for regular health clubs at about 50% a year,
Right, that's a lot.
we're at 65% retention. The regular industry is at 50%.
Yeah.
And some of the hit franchises are even lesser than that, even less than the general health club market, right? Probably because the price threshold and it's like a single modality, type of thing. So, well, dude, that's awesome. So what's next for you? I mean, obviously we've been there. How long have we been there? 3 years, 4 years?
It's 3 years. Then in 3 days, it'll literally be 3 years.
That's crazy, man.
Which
time flies.
It has flown by. It's been awesome. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm always looking for the next growth opportunity. So it's figuring out how to make sure we keep this one as is. Because, of course, you build something, you're going to want to make sure it stays the way it is or get better.
Right.
And then figuring out where to go next.
Yeah. Well, I know a good franchise that would like to have you as part of it. So
okay. I know about 100 women that would slit your tires if you took me away, though.
I know. So, well, let's talk about that. So before we wrap up, that's a curious thing. So, obviously we went into this model. It is in a lot of ways an owner operator model, right? So I know that. I mean, I've had personal conversations with you about this. Like you love that place. You've built it literally. Correct. Off skin off your back and blood, sweat, and tears, and you've got these really close relationships there. How does someone like you, because maybe there's someone listening that has that inside of a gym, maybe they've got a flock of clients or something, how do you then level up from that? And you may not have the answer, right? I mean, I have my theories, but just what are your thoughts on that? Because you don't want to lose those.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough either way. It's going to be tough, just as tough as it was, or actually tougher than it was when I left the Roswell location. I have plenty of relationships with plenty of guys who obviously couldn't come with me because I was training women, and it was obviously on the other side of the actual state, essentially. It's one of those where in order to level up, you'll have people there who are happy that you're doing that. They want you to be successful. That's just how it is. But there is a bit of selfishness that they don't want me to leave because they want me to train.
Makes sense.
So it's finding the next person or persons to come in and be as close to what you were as far as training wise, get them up to speed on how the gym's supposed to run, and then slowly but surely basically back out of training.
And we've got a great one over there now, right?
We do. We have one other coach. And again, if I had to draw it up, I wouldn't have been able to draw another coach to be any better than what a coach I already have.
Yeah. And she came from another Alloy location.
Correct.
Right?
Which helped with the technical aspect of it. That part didn't have to be taught. She's open and willing to learn all the business aspect of what we do, which is awesome. So anytime she's there, I feel 100% confident that she can run the show.
That's awesome.
So that's a great thing.
Well, that's a testament to you too. There's a saying that I picked up from a podcast, and it was really about dating, or because he told a story about dating. And I think the way that it was said was, if you're trying to attract good talent, and people complain about not being able to attract the right talent. Right. And the question you should ask yourself is, are you the person that you're looking for, right? Because if you're not that type of person, you're not going to be able to attract that type of person. Right. Are you the type of person that person that you want is one I want to work with, right? So it maybe starts by looking in the mirror, and I think it's probably a testament to you and being able to attract those type of people. So we don't know what's next, right?
We don't.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate you. You're a great partner. Obviously, I brag on you all the time. And like you said, you're part of the Alloy brand, and we'll just see where we can take this thing. But I'm super excited, and I appreciate you driving all the way over to sit in with me today. Hey, listen, where can people find out more about you?
So I'm all over the interwebs, if you will. Coach A. Wilkins on pretty much everywhere, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can try Twitter, but I try not to tweet literally ever. But I would go to Instagram. Obviously, the Alloy for Women, alloyforwomen.com. Just look for Alloy anything, and I'm pretty much there. Yeah, and you guys check out his social media presence, and just you can see a lot about his culture. And I know a lot of our Alloy licensees and people that are interested in the brand certainly follow what you're doing over there. So props to you, man. Thanks for being a great partner, and I appreciate you coming on today. Deal. All right, guys. Peace.